Have you hit your musical peak? Here's a hint. If you're in your 30s or more, you probably have.
Welcome to Plain English, the podcast that goes at the right speed for English language learners. Listen now and read the transcript online at plainenglish.com. Now, here's Jeff, your host for today's episode.
Most people hit a musical paralysis in their late 20s. That's when they stop discovering new music and just settle in with the music they already like, at least according to a new survey. Hi friends, I'm Jeff. JR is the producer, and you are listening to episode 72 of Plain English, a podcast for learning English. Here at Plain English, as you know, we go just a little bit slower than normal speech, which should let you track and understand all the words. And every episode has an interactive transcript that's absolutely 100% free on our website. The transcripts have translations of about 100 words or phrases from English to Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, and French. Today's episode transcript with all those translations can be found at plainenglish.com/72, plainenglish.com/72. Listen up for the phrasal verb for today. At the end of the episode, we'll talk about the phrasal verb settle in. You've already heard it once. Listen up for when you hear it in the main story, and we'll talk more about it later on in the episode. Here's a question. Do you ever think you'll stop discovering new music? If you're a big music fan, then you may never stop. Finding and listening to new music might be a lifelong hobby for you. But if you're like most people, then there will come a time when you'll probably just settle in and listen to the music you already like over and over for the rest of your life. That point, right when you stop discovering new music, that point is called musical paralysis. And a new survey of about 5,000 adults in the US, UK, Germany, France, and Brazil attempts to identify when that musical paralysis moment is for most adults. And the results are a little surprising. First, the overall result is that on average, people stop discovering new music when they are 27 years and 11 months old. That's a ridiculously specific number, so let's just say that on average, people stop discovering new music right around age 28. Obviously, some will be earlier, some later, and like I said, some may never stop. But for most people, according to the survey, that moment comes at around age 28. So let's dig a little deeper. The researchers also think that right before your paralysis moment comes, you are actually in your best music listening years. You actually have a peak of listening to new music in your mid-20s. Interestingly, the researchers found that these ages vary by country. In Brazil, they said your peak comes when you're 22 years old, but then soon after you turn 23, you've hit paralysis. Germans are the more mature music listeners. They hit their peak of discovering new music around their 27th birthday and reach paralysis around age 31. So why would this happen? The survey asked people why they stopped seeking out new music to listen to, and here's what they had to say. 25% of people said it was because they had a demanding job. 18% said they were overwhelmed with all the musical options out there. And then a bunch also had young children to care for. There was one other finding that I found interesting, and that is that 60% of the survey respondents said they wanted more time to listen to new music, and that's including those that already passed their peak and just don't listen to new tracks any longer. There are a few potential explanations for why we have a musical peak in our lives. Younger people tend to have a wider variety of contacts. They're meeting new people, going places, being in school, being in work, whatever. Whereas older people are more set in their ways. They meet fewer new people and settle into their old habits. I think there is also a lot of nostalgia involved. People tend to settle into musical tastes they had when they were younger, and listening to the music that was popular then reminds them of those good times. I think that's true for me. I don't mind disclosing that I am above the age of musical paralysis, by which I mean, yes, I am older than 28, but I also think that I have personally hit this musical paralysis. I tend to listen to songs that were on my favorite radio stations in Connecticut growing up. Whatever that station played is the kind of music I still like today. Spotify did a similar study a few years ago and had some interesting findings. They found that the age of musical paralysis was around age 33, so a little bit older than what the most recent survey from Deezer said, but regardless, they uncovered this same phenomenon of musical paralysis. What they found is that the youngest listeners tended to listen almost exclusively to the most popular bands, whereas older listeners tended to listen to singers and bands that are less popular. These older people had wider musical tastes. And then when music fans settle into their habits later in life, it is a combination of the popular music from a long time ago and what they might have discovered more recently. And that is actually what happened with me too. In fact, I can tell you personally that I identify with that survey finding I mentioned earlier that said people feel overwhelmed by all the choices. We can now get so much music from all over the world, all through time, small indie bands, big mega bands, and everything in between. I often feel like I can't decide on something new to listen to because of all of the options. So I'd be interested to hear what your experiences have been like. And listen, this is all about habits and trends. This is not to say that you'll never hear a new song again, or you'll never discover a new artist. But in general, the survey says in your late 20s or early 30s, you settle into your life's playlist and don't often add much new to it. So let me know if you find that's true, or maybe some of you are the exceptions here, the lifers who are always on the lookout for something new. Today I want to say hi to Andy from Germany. Andy's story might sound familiar to a lot of you. He said he didn't pay too much attention to English class when he was in school because he didn't see the point. He didn't really care about English then, but now in the last few years, he's trying to get back into it and has been using all the great technology out there, apps, books, movies in English, and now podcasts too. That's exactly what happened to me. In school, I studied French and I liked it, but I never really thought it would be useful, and then I lost almost all of it. Then when I got older, right around when I hit my musical peak, in fact, when I was a little older, I wanted to get back into languages and started learning Spanish. So anyway, Andy, better late than never. That's what I say. And welcome to the Plain English audience. It's great to have you and everyone else listening from Germany. I also want to say hi to Thiago from Rio. Actually, Thiago's story about learning English is not too different from Andy's. Thiago is giving me some travel tips for the next time I go to Brazil. And also a quick hi to Luciana from Down Under. Actually, she's from Brazil, but is currently in Australia in business school. Thanks to Andy, Thiago, and Luciana for saying hi and being part of Plain English. If you want to send a note, don't be shy. You can even suggest future topics if you think something interesting is going on in your country and you'd like to hear about it in English. You can send me a note to Jeff, Jeff, at plainenglish.com. Today I have a phrasal verb for you, settle in. Settle in. Settle in means to get comfortable or established somewhere. You can mean physically comfortable or just mentally comfortable. Settle in works with both of those. Here's how you heard it multiple times today. For most people, at some point, they just settle in with the music they already know and like, and stop discovering new music. That means they get comfortable with their playlists and their bands, and they don't venture out of their comfort zone to discover new music. If you have a new colleague at work, someone who has just started, you might ask if he or she is settled in yet. A person is settled in at a new job when that person has set up his or her desk or workspace, found the way around, met everyone, and gotten comfortable with the new job's responsibilities. That person would be settled in because now he or she is comfortable and established. That person is not new there anymore. It took me weeks to get settled in after the last time I moved. I had so many boxes and I just didn't unpack. It was actually a few months before I felt truly settled in, before I was truly comfortable in my new apartment. You might also say you're settling in for the night. Maybe it's 9 o'clock and you're finally at home the activity of the day is calming down, and you're just going to watch a movie before going to bed. You're settling in for the night. You're getting comfortable. You're done moving around. You're just going to sit down in your favorite chair or even in bed and watch a movie. That is settling in for the night. Thanks for being with us today. Here's a quick plug for the email list. Go to plainenglish.com/mail and sign up to get the new episode emails. Each time a new episode comes out, I send you a summary of the show's main topic, links to articles in English about that topic, and as a special bonus, I send you one extra English word or phrase that I used in the show with a description of how to use it. So if you're building your expressions and idioms, you'll want to read those. plainenglish.com/mail and enter the details, and you can get that for free every Monday and Thursday. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. JR and I will be back again on Thursday.